and the business, we get back into our conversation. In case you're just joining us right now on set, we do have Dr. Alphonse Kanga. He is the regional chair of Nairobi for NCCK, as well as Njeri Kahiga. She is a national youth leader. Our conversation tonight is matters the public donations to churches. What are your thoughts on this? Should we be having politicians standing on pulpits and announcing the certain amount of money they have, they're going to be donating? Even before we continue our conversation, let's listen in to what President William Ruto said last year in July.
No state officer or public servant shall participate in public contributions or haram fees going forward. The Attorney General is hereby directed to prepare and submit legislation to this effect and develop a mechanism for structured and transparent contributions for public, charitable, and philanthropic purposes. These measures will be followed by changes in government that I will be making.
Right. That particular soundbite is from last year, just after the heat of the June 2024 protests, and President William Ruto stood outside State House and gave, among others, that particular statement. And I know, Njeri, as well as Dr. you've heard what the president said, and I definitely know you remember what he said. And largely talking about matters, austerity measures. Dr. even before we continue with matters business and sports, your clarion call was, we focus on collaborative and collective approach. This is this particular directive by the president that was given last year, does it fit in what you are talking about here, collective and collaborative approach?
Yes, that's why I said that as Kenyans, we need to have an all-round discussion on different issues so that we don't jump on issues like now the issue of tithes and offering, so that it goes a direction where we are not really going to come up with the issues. We need an all-round discussion that has an ethical viper and value-based discussion, so that as we think about this issue, we ask ourselves, now, we are talking about tithes and offering. What's the issue here? Is the issue tithes and offering? No. The issue here, the Gen Z that are asking this question, number one, they go to hospitals, they go to schools. So instead of dealing with the schools and hospitals and what has gone wrong, or dealing with the issue that has not been honored, and yet it was said in this direction, we pick up an issue of tithes and offering, and we make it become an evil. We make it look as if it's a big issue. And yet, instead of sitting together and agree, Kenyans as a team, as fathers, as parents, there is something that has missed in our viber. And what has missed in our viber is ethical viber and value-based discussion. Then we agree, for sure, the issue of tithes and offering, we are different types of churches.
And with a bit of now what you talk about the value-based conversations that need to be there, he also continues to talk about and give a directive to the Attorney General to formulate legislation that will enable this particular public contributions. To the whole of last year, we did see the Public Fundraising Appeals Bill 2024, and they went to Senate, and senators largely rejected this particular bill. Allow me to have Njeri respond on this as well, even as a rebuttal on what Dr. is talking about. Do you think there's sincerity from these same leaders who are going to be debating this bill, and yet they'll debate it on a Thursday, and then on Sunday they are going to still probably give out and donate the same amount of money to a bill that they were rejecting?
I didn't get your question. What?
My question is, do you think there's sincerity from these leaders who are debating on some of these bills that the president himself said there should be a legislation around the conversation on public donations?
First of all, you know, we deal with a parliament that is an extension of the executive. They are the same parliamentarians who woke up and told us that the Finance Bill 2024 was a good one. And when the president said he's going to cancel it, they stood up and applauded him. They are the same parliamentarians who, when we said we cannot sell our airport, or we cannot privatize our airport, they said we can because, you know, we've introduced PP kind of arrangements. But when again the president said he's going to demolish that idea, they were standing up to applaud him again. So we have parliamentarians who operate like some people who are some robots. Whatever the president switches on, they're going to be on. When he switches off, he's going to switch off. So they don't have the independence of their minds to categorically debate any bill unless they are told what to debate, what to say about it. And even after they are told what to say about it, if it brings agitation from the public and the president is advised, you know what, this one has gone way overboard, we have to do something about it. If the president will later on come and say we don't need to do it this way, they'll be the first one justifying why they should not move forward with it. So
all right.
In terms of a parliament debating it,
okay,
they're going to debate it how they're going to be told from State House.
Okay.
But if that bill comes to the public and we understand this is what they debated and this is what they passed through, okay, and the public agitates and the president makes a presidential statement about it, they're going to turn around. Okay. So in Kenya, to this point, we no longer even care what goes to parliament and what does not go. Okay. We are waiting for what comes to the public. If the public is okay with it, then we are for sure going to run smoothly. But if we don't, okay, we go back to maandamano.
Now, something that wasn't really okay with the public was last week in Kirinyaga, where Kirinyaga politicians, the pastor who was speaking at that particular funeral, politicians stormed this particular funeral and demanded to actually speak. You're a politician yourself. You know, you attend most of these particular events. What are your thoughts on this? Because it definitely goes to what the clergy would say. About 4 years ago, they said they should not be, they actually banned politics in pulpits. What are your thoughts on this?
First of all, in the Kirinyaga issue, we need to be very honest about it. The pastor in charge did not refuse politicians to speak. Okay. He refused politicians aligned to the former deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, to speak. Okay. Before the women rep for Kirinyaga, Njeri, and certain MCF aligned to Kwamonyoro had spoken, there was a chief officer, I think from the health, who had been given a platform to speak. I think there was a waziri or a chief officer who, from the health department in the county government, who had been allowed to speak and say how SHA is functioning. So you cannot allow somebody to tell us how SHA is functioning simply because they are a government officer from the county government. Then you refuse MCA and the area women rep to speak, and they are speaking to say that you are lying. SHA is not working, because truth is, if you decide to give one political affiliation a chance on the pulpit, then you are not somebody who is fair.
So where do we draw the line on matters politics on pulpits as a politician?
First of all, the issue that was there was the barrier of some certain 3 kids, which is a community obligation for everybody to come on board. Whether you're a politician, whether you're a professional, you're supposed to come on board and say goodbye to this person. And as you are saying goodbye to the people because there is a whole community that is here, it is important as a leader that you tell them, you know what, development has been moving from this position to another, because again, we don't want again where politicians have to plan for another day to come, speak to people, spend resources. If you can find a conversation around it and be very respectful about it, as long as you are giving facts. The problem that the crowd had with that said pastor is because he was a government supporter who was ready to let government speak on the things that they think supports government.
Right.
But anybody who was criticizing the government was not allowed. And that is now where the women rep from Kirinyaga stood her ground and said, no, we have to be allowed to speak because you want to bring, it's like when we come for these shows, you bring both government people and people who don't support government. You bring people who are independent-minded.
Right,
everybody needs to be given
a fair
ground. Yes.
And Dr. still in the matters and the whole spirit of having legislations that are, directive, as she was talking about, from the parliament, even from the cabinet as well, but then the implementation of such laws. Do you think we need to go that particular path of actually making sure, for example, the Public Fundraising Appeals Bill 2024, and making sure that there is a law that prohibits strictly and there are stringent measures that are followed thereafter?
It is right to have paperwork. Paperwork is okay. Legislation is okay. Like in this country, we have enough laws, even before we create others.
Yes.
But the issue is the sincerity, the accountability of how to go about it. Even before that, I'll not want to run away from what she has said completely.
No problem.
I'll also go back to myself and say, even we as a church, we also need to think and rethink so that we can operate within our given structures. What I know is that every organized church has a structure. And if you as a politician, you as a journalist, you as a teacher, you are a member of that church. When you go there, you are accountable. You rank under the rules of that church. And so me as a trained clergyman, when I'm there, I need to know that all these people are mine. So whether the pastor was right or he was wrong, that's what I call upon, that we, as a church, we also need to come together and organize ourselves, discuss from our house, and then be able to lead. We need a discussion in this country, an all-round discussion, as I'm saying, that this all-round discussion will also have an ethical viper, whether it's a pastor, it's a clergyman, or it's a journalist, or it's a politician. If you are a member of the church, you rank under the rules of that church. So within that context and circumstances, you need to know how to go. But the pastor is the commander of that day. And so, with real respect, let's give him opportunity to operate as a pastor. If we have a question, let's question tomorrow. The issue of the legislation being made here, maybe the question I have in mind, getting a little bit out. There was a report that came from the Auditor General, and there is money being stolen in the counties and all that. The question is, has these committees of the Senate, these committees of the Parliament, have they dealt with those issues? What's going to come up with those issues, even before we go to these other rules? We are looking at them asking, hey, parliamentarians, the Auditor General has said this is wrong, this has happened, we are quiet. The Auditor General has said the counties have misplaced money, there's misuse of money in the counties. What are they talking about it? That's what I'm saying. We need to begin on the ground as we come up to deal with other legislators and all these other rules that are coming in.
And the question arises, does the government listen to you as a clergy? This government started with the aid of the church, and publicly they'd say in the support of the church. 2 years later, today we actually had a whole mid-year report. 2 years later, does the government still listen to the church?
The issue I would ask also, do they have an option? Who is the government? The government are part of the church. The church and the state works together for the benefit of mankind, namely that man should live in peace, love, and unity. We both serve God and man. The government serves God and man. So one can say that you are not listening, but really you are listening. It's not that you don't want to listen, because it might be going direction you don't want. Either because the end justifies the means, you will pretend you are not listening, but you have no option as a government.
So apart from the pulpit and every single Sunday, where as a pastor you'd have prepared your sermon to probably address a particular issue, apart from the pulpit on Sunday, does the church and the different umbrellas of church, you could probably speak for NCCK, write directly to the government, say addressing particular national issues?
Yes, we do. actually, when there are sensitive matters, as a church, we come together and talk to them. I said politicians are part of us.
Yes.
They belong to the church. They belong to religious bodies. So we have structures that we use to reach them in different dimensions. It's not necessary that we can shout on the road, this is what we are doing. But when there is a major issue, we'll always sit and agree. Like even that issue of Kirinyaga, I'm sure that particular denomination will sit down and tell the pastor, here you are wrong and here you are right. So do the church speak to the systems? Yes, we are part of the system. Do they listen? They have no option. They have to listen. But when you listen, your action is determined by what's in your mind or what you want.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Even as you come in, a quick reply on one of our viewers. Hi, my name is Brian Othiambo from Kisumu. I feel like the church has let Kenyans down. Daktari, would you agree?
It depends what he means by down. Is it because we are not confronting evil or we are not speaking? But as far as I'm concerned, I said the society, Odhiambo and all of us, we need a value-based systems.
Okay. So
that as we confront one another, we are sincere, we are genuine, we want to correct issues.
Okay.
But if it means the church has not shouted enough, the church is a collective of individuals who have brain, mind, spirit, and soul.
Right. And
so we operate within a given mandate of spirituality, a given mandate of intellectuality, a given mandate of operation with respect to mankind.
Right. And even as you come in, we're in the very few minutes of wrapping up. So talking matters here, solutions really, as Dr. says, are not pointing a finger to individuals, but then matters solutions. A rebuttal on what he was talking about. Then even as the youth, what kind of a church would you like to see moving forward?
I don't want to be what kind of a church I would want to see forward, because if the government was following basic human rights laws, if they cannot simply respect the right to life, how do we expect them to make laws about donations and respect them? If they cannot respect the young people who went to Maandamano, if they cannot allow Kenyans to freely demonstrate, how do we expect them to enact laws about donations? Donations is about money. If simply about people dying in hospitals, you cannot follow the law. You cannot just be responsible in your governance. How do we expect them to enact laws and actually follow them up? My part of the solutions that I would bring up is maybe it's time that Kenya should allow, we should just allow Kenyans to continue auditing these leaders, because I don't understand how you've been a member of parliament for one term and you can afford 20 million for donations. I think what should come into place is we need to strengthen our institutions. We need to strengthen EACC in a way that it's quite independent, because if you look at these so many donations, it's an entrenchment of corruption. You know, it's a misuse of funds. It is opulence. You cannot be misusing resources, doing some shoddy things in the names of philanthropy. Then you won't tell us that fundamental issues like education, like health, you know, are things that you can put aside for a minute, but everything else can happen, you know. And the moment we see a president who is a joker, because the moment you're on a platform like Kamukunji and you're telling us about 1 million chapatis, who cares about 1 million chapatis in a nation where they cannot go to hospital and access proper medical insurances cover?
Okay.
Who cares about 1 million chapatis when students in schools have not received capitation? Who cares about 1 million chapatis when at the end of the day the payslip has been shredded into pieces? So we need to be very honest. It's not even, the church has a part to play, but truth be told, we need as Kenyans to keep telling the president the truth.
Fantastic. And
when time comes, if he does not act on it, the next regime that is going to come in, our first assignment ni kuweka ndani wote.
Most definitely. Dr. Very briefly, your last thoughts, speaking directly to the president, to the politicians.
First of all, I speak to my fellow Kenyans. Please, on Sunday, go and give your tithes and offerings. The only thing is that we are not going to announce about it. And we as a nation, whether the president is all of us, let's have a collaborative and collective discussion that is value-based, with ethical viper so that we may decide the way forward. Let's not incite one another, because we have a country called Kenya, which is our home for you to live in. And let's respect one another. But for Gen Zs and my daughter who is here, what we can agree sincerely, please let's find a way of doing it. Not going Kutawala to occupy the church. Occupying the church, go and pray. Let's lay hands on you. But don't come and occupy in your style. And then let's have a discussion and agree on the next course of action for better Kenya.
Right. Thank you very much. I thought you'd be wrapping up with a verse for us, but I think we can do that for next time. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us and for contributing your thoughts. A number of your questions, I have definitely raised them to Dr. as well as Njeri Kahiga here with us. Catherine Simaloi has been on the Sign Language Docket. I'm yours truly, Stanley Nyerungita. Till next time, have yourself a wonderful Wednesday evening.